The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the management and staff of Guardian Radio.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Wednesday, February, I do not know. Diana, 4th. Today's the 4th. Yeah, that's good. I have a party to go to on Sunday. That is good. And then I have to take the child to a dental appointment. See, you got to have one of these books that tell you what you are actually scheduled to do. So I would encourage everyone to get a diary and make sure you organize or you'll be lost like me. Today is Wednesday, February 4th. It's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. Once again, this is C.A. Newry, and I shall be your host for the day. I see there's all kind of Bahamas right now, especially in the political sphere. Everybody talking about Rick Fox, the ambassador. They're talking about the new candidates. But I'm going to be talking culture today. Right? I know you want to talk politics. I can save that for later on. I can have an open line day for that where people can call in and talk about politics. But today we're going to talk about the nature of culture in the Bahamas, what is important to us or what we should be doing in the Bahamas. I actually have a guest in studio, Miss Diana Hamilton, who I promised to come on, and I'm kind of excited to have her on as I challenge her in terms of what we should be doing, right? She's a cultural enthusiast, right? And I tend to be blunt, pushback regarding people who are involved in culture. Because I find people involved in culture tend to depend on government too much when they should be doing their own. I lived in the United States for a brief bit, and they don't depend on government at all. Government make things possible. They create an environment. And those with talent do. They don't ask nobody for no money. The money comes because they do. And I'm trying to find out, why do we find ourselves inside the Bahamas so challenged to have a cultural product that we could be proud of, that we are selling, that we are exposing to the world. Recently, I went to a expose. That's a wrong word there. But it was, and the name escaped me, Eddie Minnis. Eddie Minnis had an expose on his art, his caricature that he should do for the Tribune, I think. What's the Tribune? For the newspaper. And of course, he also displayed his music and talents and paintings. Everything was on an exhibition. It was a very cultural affair, and they had good food there too, free food. So I took advantage of that too. And one of the caricatures was a picture of a dark-skinned man. And this dark-skinned man had the label of PLP, government, to explain who this dark-skinned man. And in this he had the dark-skinned man speaking to a white gentleman who live abroad. He's a foreigner. And it's a one sentence, maybe a phrase caption. The white gentleman said, "Do you want to buy some culture for your country?" And I found that profound. I said, "What do you mean, do we need to buy culture for your country?" Right? It's any minute. And I'm sure he's doing commentary on what was happening. It's a 19th biblical caption for newspaper. So that we were importing culture for the Bahamas instead of exporting our culture and celebrating our culture. And sometimes I wonder if that continues to happen today. Without further ado, I introduce you to Miss Diane Hamilton, who's a cultural ambassador of her own, right? A cultural enthusiast. And turn on her mic. I can't hear her through my earpiece, Kermit. Try that again.
Yes.
Yes. So before you start, give a brief history of who you are, and so we can start our conversation.
Okay, so I left the Bahamas. I didn't leave. I was actually shipped out at age 16, interrupting my studies at St. Anne, and I ended up in the States. And from the States at age 19, I arrived in France, which is basically where I spent most of my life until I came home. And in France, I became a teacher and a performer, and I had the great good fortune to meet a musicologist named Daniela Langer, who had heard our music when she was about 12 years old, growing up in Czechoslovakia, that was at the time communist, and they only allowed folk music. So she learned Joseph Spence and the Chutneys and all our songs, and she was totally our music. And she was looking for a Bahamian, and it's, as life goes, I was at a party where a journalist friend of hers was, and we met, and she transformed my life. She told me things about the Bahamas that I didn't know, and maybe most people don't know. For example, our rhyming spirituals, she told me, were unique to the Bahamas, and they were the missing link between the work songs and the Negro spirituals. And so from then on, I have been on a crusade. I don't know what to call it, but it's my personal investment in my culture. I love my country. I love my people. And I do what I can to keep the accordion alive and to also follow up with these children and allow them to be what they want to be and not what we think they should conform to. And I think that's culture.
Good. You mentioned work songs and Negro spirituals. I am familiar with Negro spirituals, African Americans and the Negro spirituals. And we have, in the Bahamas, have adopted many of the Negro spirituals to be our own.
Unfortunately.
Right? But you also mentioned rhyming song. I'm not familiar with the term rhyming song.
Okay, so rhyming spirituals is a unique way of singing. It is not the call and answer. Fishers would go out on the sea. They had to stay out on the sea for a month or so, and they would create songs. They would come back, they would get together, and basically there were three. So you would have the rhymer. It had nothing to do with rhyming. He would basically be rapping, talking his way through the other two rhythms. So you'd have a high voice, you'd have a very low voice, and you'd have this voice that's weaving through them, telling stories. And what our ancestors did, and I'm speaking of the African ones, they're not the only population in our country, was they would infuse these rhyming spirituals with knowledge they had brought with them as they came through that slave passageway, to keep those things alive. And so the communities they would have built at the time were established on already old traditions that they had within them and that they would have preserved to the best of their abilities.
There are a number of songs. Right now, there's songs by Joseph Spence that is being re-edited, redone by Americans. They're making millions and millions of dollars off songs that were originally originated in the Bahamas. Bullfrog dressed up in soldier clothes. I heard an older version of that in the 1930s, bad recording, about a Bahamian woman who immigrated to Coconut Grove, Florida. It's a different version of what we now listen to, but you can see it's the same words, right? And African Americans have adopted that and said, no, that's theirs.
Yeah.
They acknowledge that the person singing is Bahamian, but they're saying that song there is theirs. And you mentioned this rhyming song that is indigenous.
Rhyming spiritual is indigenous to the Bahamas, and it would be a tragedy if we let go of that. So
who does that now? You give me an example of any kind of song.
There's nobody. Well, to tell you the honest truth, the miracle was Daniela Langer. After we met, we became really invested in this Bahamian music that was so amazing. And I need to mention in passing that we must remember the people to whom we owe preservation of traces of this music. So Alan Lomax, a person named Alan Lomax, came to the Bahamas, and he was looking for former slaves or slaves that had had very little contact with whites. And the reason behind this, he said, was that the music would be in its purest form. So he went into the Delta, he went into jail, led bellions that came out of his work, and he came to the Bahamas and recorded Joseph Spence and what was happening in the Bahamas musically at the time, thank God. So we have traces of that. Samuel Charters is going to come afterwards, but Alan Lomax was the first one to come and record these rhyming spirituals. And so we have records of them. But for some reason, after Spence, the Pinder family, even though it was sung in the Bahamas, it has sort of died out, and we sort of adapted the more sing and call or harmony, which is not the rhymings at all.
I'm still trying to conjure in my mind an example of a rhyming. Do you know any rhyming?
Sure.
You gotta sing.
I Bid You Good Night, for example.
Oh, I Bid You Good Night.
I Bid You Good Night, but not the
Good
version
night.
that was done by recent, by
yes.
Audrey Wright's sister. The one, can your
I don't know where to find it. So I
tell him to just look for Joseph Spence and the Pinder family.
Joseph Spence and Pinder.
Any of them will bring up rhyming spirituals. The real sound of our rhyming spirituals.
Kermit, if you're able to find any rhyming spiritual, Joseph Spence and the Hoofin
Pinder family, for example.
It's a black Pinder or white Pinder family?
Pinder. They're an andress.
Oh, okay, that's a black Pinder.
Well, this was an African thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, it's not that they can't sing, but they have their own thing, and they have a right to their own thing. So what I wanted to talk about, if I may, organize this. If we're talking about culture, we have to talk about culture, its origins, its cultivation, and the legacy. Yes? So if we're looking at origins, the culture that became or has become predominant in the Bahamas is a diluted form, let's say, of what the Africans, slaves, descendants brought here and put in our soil. We need to remember the word culture is something that is common to all people on the planet. It's not a Bahamian thing. And so if you look at other world cultures, you will find common denominators. These common denominators are that they celebrated certain events during the solstice. Because they were agricultured and close to land and close to nature, they celebrated the cycles of life and death and so on and so forth. So you will find that in Finland. You will find it in France. You will find it wherever you go. In the Bahamas, for some reason, we shift it.
Why?
All right. So there's something that happened in the Bahamas that changed the way if you read Cleophas, that wrote that book on the Bahamas. Can you remind me of his name? The famous doctor in research on Bahamian music, Nicolette Bethel's father.
Bethel?
Yes.
Clement T. Bethel.
Okay. So he did a thorough search at the time, research.
Clement Bethel.
Clement Bethel
Okay.
on the Bahamas. And one of the things he highlighted was that it was in the African communities that culture was most vibrant and that the communities were most energetic and so on. For whatever reason, that was it. What were they doing? They were doing things like, at that time, they were doing the fire dance. They were doing those ring play where they would get together and children would watch. And they were doing, later on, they were doing the, what we call rhyme, rake and scrape. So that would be the accordion that was then imported. And they added the goatskin drum and the saw, and they imported the quadrille again, and they created a Bahamian version. So it was there's something else that's important, I think, to remember about these slaves is that they were all singing to survive, and the miracle is that God was with them, and they produced all this incredible music that came out as calypso or soca or reggae, whatever. You name it, the blues, jazz, it was all coming out of the bellies and hearts of these people in their way of surviving. Some of them were spiritual and some of them were for social gatherings. They stem from exactly the same source, right? And so you have something that's going to happen is like if you take Junkanoo and you go back to its origins, it was a spiritual gathering at a particular time of the year for a particular reason. And you will find that at that winter solstice, you will find in other traditional societies the same kind of festivities, yes? And so when we take Junkanoo and displace it from its original energetic origin, we're diluting it. It's supposed to be, as Fela Kuti said, music is food for the soul. It wasn't meant as we have, labeled it entertainment. It was the way people fed their souls.
I can challenge you on that.
Mm-hmm.
I can challenge you, but let's go to this caller. Because you sound like you're talking magic, and I'm scared of magic.
This is life. Life is magic.
Life is magic?
Don't you think the sun is magic, that it rises every day and it's there for us?
That's science.
No, that science came so much later. It's just words, isn't it?
Let's go, Miss Diane Hamilton. We're talking about the importance of culture, the origin of culture, and things that's supposed to be sacred to us that we now flippantly are doing. And she's now talking about Junkanoo and said Junkanoo is something sacred, something spiritual, and we may have to step back and go back to the origin of why things happen instead of just partying. Because Junkanoo's a party music now.
It has become, you know why people are not happy after a Junkanoo festival? And the Junior Junkanoo actually has more of the energy because people are high after Junior Junkanoo, right? So these collective gatherings, it's moments where people get that high energetic energy to go through the new year. They take off the old, okay? They shed the old, and they put on the new for this new life, and they go charged. They've come together as a group, they separate, they go their way, but they're bound by these festivals that they know they come together. And you will find this all over the world. This is not something that is unique to any country, right? Because this is how we as humans stay connected to the divine and at the same time live on the earth in a way that in harmony with nature and all life. Okay. Yes?
Let's go to this caller as we talk to Miss Diane Hamilton. Go ahead, caller. Guardian Radio AM. Kermit, you get that song for me, right? Yeah? Okay. Go ahead, caller.
Mr. Newry.
Yeah, this Newry, go ahead.
Mr. Newry, do you remember, I don't know if you are old enough to remember the Cat Island boys called the Region Bells?
Yes.
Okay, well, you could play some of their music. You remember 1929? The Hurricane?
The Hurricane, yes.
Blind Blake sing, but doesn't rap to it. You remember Dry Bones?
Them Dry Bones, yes.
Dry Bones is a rap originated in the Bahamas. You remember Jones or Jones?
Jones, yes.
Go to Blind Blake song and play Jones or Jones and listen to the rap. Okay? Before rap.
Okay, so
and hey, the woman talking sense because our culture was taken away from us. Okay?
I can have expanded that too.
We had spiritual worship. And they take away the spiritual worship and make it illegal for you to do your spiritual worship. Okay? And then we got Christianized. You know, we had to drop our religion and then take on the other people's religion. Okay? They have some guy will dance and hold his body, the top part of his body will be perpendicular and not moving. And his leg will be moving up and down. You understand me? So you could go and do the research on YouTube and confirm exactly what you're talking about.
I appreciate you, Cole. I can have Miss Hamilton respond to that right now. Because he sounds like he's talking magic too.
Yeah, I'm just very pleased when Bahamians remember themselves, because it's so important to remember we are not just, lazy. We're not just filling our yards with garbage. We're not, that's not the memory, and that's not the truth of who we really are. And so it's important to show what we are, and it gives us the strength and the courage and the vision to correct what we are not. right? And so you need that vision. Without it, if somebody only believes that they are desperate and down, then that will become their reality. But if they can remember a time when they were a community, when they were happy people. Bahamians were a very happy bunch of people. And out of that, this used to be called the Islands of Songs because they would make songs out of every event. We sang, And so I think it is our duty to pass this on. I think that it should be a normal thing for there to be programs on the radio with Joseph Spence, with Blind Blake, where we talk about our ancestors, those ones. So once again, what I'm trying to get to is that the Bahamas is a mix of different cultures. And what we've done, let's just say at the end of slavery, before slavery, it was whites and coloreds. You know that, yes? Mm-hmm. So after slavery, it becomes the brights and the coloreds, okay? Mm-hmm. So the too dark, the hair too kinky, the lips too full, and so on and so forth. And they're in the middle, and they want the African side. They want to jump up and down like us in Junkanoo, but they don't want to live near us. They don't want to speak this intelligent language that we call dialect, which is a language that our ancestors put together to communicate in the face of total devastation, of total loss of identity, culture, and so on. So they were doing incredible things that we need to celebrate. And this is why you will find that, for example, if we take cultures living here, they are speaking their native dialect, keeping it alive because it's a form of binding. Bahamians are scattering away. As a child, I was not allowed to speak Bahamian, Creole as we call it, because that was the trend at the time, which was to become more bourgeois and move away from what was the real source and origin of who we are. And that is the mistake we are paying for. A high price, certainly, right? So you've got a Bahamas that today, once independence happened, what we did was, let's speak about culture and counterculture. Okay, so if we decide that culture is aligned with the natural cycles of life, that it is linked to the land, to agriculture, it's linked to harmonious living amongst people, it leads to educating our young to follow in a certain way. For example, if you go to Finland, it is ingrained in their youth to be respectful of nature, respectful of elders, and so forth. So this was a common denominator among traditional people. It will not differ. What people are complaining about in their time, this was this way and today is this way. My question to them is this: why didn't you pass it on? Okay? Because if you had kept that, if you'd kept that education that you are so nostalgic about today, the children wouldn't be out there doing like they're doing and mostly wanting to commit suicide, I've heard.
Kermit, let's play that rhyming spiritual song in the meantime. And then I'll ask Miss Hamilton if the definition of culture is things that we currently practice. And if we have abandoned the past, can't we say that's no longer our culture?
Let's talk about counterculture.
That's called counterculture?
Let's call it counterculture. So everything we're calling culture is counter to the culture, the origin that is common to all humanity.
We can come back to that right now. Play that song there. And something called counterculture.
Counterculture.
Okay.
Now upon your Savior's breast, I love you. Oh, but Jesus love you the best. Brother, bid you good night. Lord, good night. Lord, Lord, I bid you good night. Lord, a good night. Good night. Lay down, brother Spence. I want you lay and take your rest. I want you lay your head now upon your Savior's breast. I love you, oh, Jesus love you the best. God, I bid you good night, Lord, good night.
You know, when you hear that, I feel it.
Don't you feel it?
I feel it.
Of course you feel it. It is alive. It's vibrant.
I'm
right.
listening
Absolutely.
to it.
And that's what it's supposed to do.
But we don't sing that type of
We
song.
don't listen to it. We've lost the art of... That is unique, as I found out from this musicologist in France that made her come to the Bahamas to look for this music. So we ended up on Andros where we met Zippy, and Zippy did sing Dry Bones, but that particular thing that we call rhyming spirituals, I had, when I formed my trio in France, because Daniela pushed me to do so, it was an absolute miracle. But I had musicologists and journalists and all kinds of people coming to me in France and talking about this incredible music. Okay? It is incredible. There's nothing like it.
I got to ask you this, because I want to talk about counterculture, and I see people calling too. So I want to include them into the conversation. How do we bring that back? Like I say, that song, just briefly, moved me, because I grew up hearing that.
That's right.
But I was connected to it, to my hair on my arms started racing up.
That's right.
I used to like, people said, why you like funeral songs so much? And I said, no man, these Bahamian songs. That's why I like singing Bishop when he sings his Bahamian song. But how do we get back to that?
Well, first of all, memory is something that's very precious and very fragile. Samuel Charters came to the Bahamas has allowed us to be able to listen to these songs, because if they hadn't been recorded, they would be dead. Okay?
So watch me be racial, and I still have to prep for this call too. These were foreign white people who came down to record this.
What I want to say to you is there's only one divine energy. And if it is necessary to use a foreign element to save something, then that's how it happens. There's no color when it comes to life and intelligence. That's social separation, okay? But if the human race is one race, under one God, under one intelligence, and so you will find times where those people, the blues, they allowed those slaves to sing. They sat in the distance and watched them jiggling up and down. They didn't join them, but they did allow it, thank God. All right? And so, what our ancestors did was they were from different tribes. These were not the same groups of people. Now, I need to just interject something here very quickly. If you read Shakespeare's Othello, he talks about, it's called Black Orpheus, or The Merchant of Venice, and I think that is a key book to understanding what is going on, that had colonized Greece, and that the Greeks and Italians and the whites in Europe decided at a critical point that they no longer wanted to be known as colonies, okay, of the African pharaohs. And so they took those people as slaves. Who were on those slave ships? They weren't people in grass skirts. These were the highest people evolved that had brought to Europe knowledge. They called them the Moors. They called them all kinds of names. All right. These were the pharaohs, and they gave Europe knowledge of the scriptures, of God, of chivalry, even knighthood. Everything is coming out of Africa. Yes, out of this race, this pharaonic race here. Now, once Greek and Italy decide, they become extremely racist. They round up these elites, and they are also on those slave ships. Those elites were bringing, if you go back and look at pictures, you will see things that look like modern day jazz quartets. All right? So they were infusing Europe with music, with knowledge of God, and they're on these ships with these other unfortunates that are picked up. And they helped them through this passage. Nobody ever asked, how is it possible to go through so much cruelty and survive singing?
I appreciate that. Kermit, look for more songs so we can play. Let's go to this caller to engage Miss Hamilton also. Because there's a song that said, how can I sing?
In a strange land.
In a strange land.
That's right.
And you say they sang? I said, how can I sing?
How can I sing?
The King's song.
That's right.
In the strange land.
That's right.
Hey, stop the music. Let's go to the caller. Go ahead, caller. Guardian Radio AM.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Newry, and good morning to your wonderful guest.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, of course I'm loving what I'm hearing. I just called to make an input. I have read I guess you have read the book, The Civilization of Spain.
No,
Because
but I will.
It speaks to the Moors ruling Spain for 600 to 700 years.
Okay.
And there's also a book called From Babylon to Timbuktu. So maybe you should take a look at You and You. So the thing is, you said something very profound as it relates to Sweden or some European Nordic countries.
Finland.
Which you said they were taught
Finland.
to stay in arc or intact with nature, right? And so humanity, the human race has been and it still is being slowly and incrementally engineered to stray away from nature through technology, which I call technology. But what I wanted to say was just to show you the misunderstanding, and we are being countercultured for centuries, for thousands of years, because what happens now is originally Europeans, they could have never understood us. And the reason how they end up in Africa, in Central Africa, in the deserts, because they had the African people. They couldn't just come in there and go and do what they did without being guided. And so why I say that is because we paid homage to the air, homage to the land, homage to the water, homage to everything, the nature. We lived in harmony with nature. It is not until they came from Gomer Pau, Magog, and Ashkenaz that they started this degradation of the land and exploitation of the land. So what I'm saying, in other words, in short, they call us animists because we were quite knowledgeable about nature and God. And so then this is why they call us uncivilized, et cetera, et cetera. So we were under attack physically and we are under attack spiritually. So just keep up the show in a good way. But, C.A. Newry, those songs you playing, Mom, my granddaddy, I know them through my granddaddy.
Absolutely.
He's from Cat Island, so I used to listen to them. And the thing is, C.A. Newry, I remember a couple of years old, but they actually did something to us. It keeps us, I don't know what they did, but
keep us connected to the spirit, to God.
Music is a universal language. And so us as black people must realize that our history has been countercultured and we have vultured. Give thanks.
Thanks. Kermit, do you have another song for me? When you're ready, you can play another song, but let me ask Miss Hamilton, you use the word counterculture. I want to understand what that means.
Okay, so counterculture, let me set up a parallel for you. So you know what agriculture is in its pure at a time when the moon is at a certain right phase, and it's understanding. You prepare the soil, you plant the seed, you water, you watch over it, and it grows and it reaches full bloom, and then you harvest. If you take human culture, the seeds are, let's say we plant seeds and we cultivate those seeds. These are divine truths, divine rules about how to live in a right way, in an upright way, as we are supposed to, how to serve nature and not enslave nature, right? And so this becomes a way of living in the earth and preserving life, and then we pass it on to our children. So we instill in them, we ingrain in them the same way of living and being. And if that cycle is broken, you have chaos. You have something that will be a nature. You'll have a counterculture that will come in there and that will take precedence over what was once. So they're calling it, let's say they're calling it modernization, but it's absolute nonsense, right? Because all you've done is moved away from the truth to a facted truth. And so things as truth that if you have a lot of money, you are worth more than somebody who doesn't have money. But we are spirits, okay? And it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with how we become aware of our role within the universe. And so in wise societies, and it was true in the Bahamas, they would look at the seeds and they say, you are meant to be a leader. You are meant to be a teacher. You are meant to be an artist. You are meant to do that. But what happened in the counterculture is you've got a group of people who decide they don't want to be black. All right? They bright, they mango skin. They don't want to mix. They don't want to be too close to that. Or they will mix, but it's like a social privilege to see a black skinned man with a lighter skinned woman. That becomes a symbol of social, elevation, let's say, right? And so the way these children that are I would say, raped out of the wombs of these African mothers, turn against us, and they stand on our heads. And then, so we're not only having to fight the white and their desire to destroy us, but we're fighting the children born out of slavery who decide that in order to give themselves an identity, once again be in contrast to the blacks, the origins. Because honestly, if you take gold and you mix gold with another metal, would it have the same value as gold? So if you take the black African mother and you mix her with another race, does it have the same value? You understand? And so we've reversed everything, right? And that's what counterculture does. It sort of mixes things. And life is simple, Newry. Life is simple. Counterculture will make it complicated.
Complicated. Kermit, let's play the song so we go to the next caller there.
Grandma, Pa, and me, we came on the sloop John B. Round Nassau town, where it roam. Been drinking all night, and we got in a fight. I feel so break up, I want to go home. I bought me a brand new pants, I started to go to a dance. Too much sat down my pants, boys, I had to go home. I had to go home. I had to go home. Because my pants burst, and I had to go home.
So let me come back to the idea in French that says that in those project buildings, a lot of Mozarts are assassinated. I would say in Baintown, in the Grove, in all the areas that all these ancestral communities that we have abandoned are the seeds that are carrying the same cultural potential as those people that came over on those slave ships. But they can't get out of there. They're being stifled. They're too black. They're surrounded by guns and drugs. And so the channels that they are meant to be, the music that they are meant to bring forth, and the contributions that they are meant to, to offer our society are being lost. We're losing them in gunfights and so on and so forth. There were no brights and whites and mango-skinned people on those slave ships. They did not come through the Middle Passage. They did not have that divine calling of bringing out all this music. There's something else I think it's important to say. Those slaves, when they encountered European culture, they didn't shut down and say, we have to hold on to what we know. They opened, and in opening, they were able to be creative beyond belief. They took the accordion. They took whatever was available. They took, if they couldn't use tin cans, whatever they needed. They used the carpenter saw, screwdriver, whatever was needed to give birth to this music. This music had to happen. And the world has been feeding on this music. It has been thriving on this music ever since, even though we black people are not being given the credit as the ones who have this divine gift. And it doesn't mean that other races and other people don't have it. They do. But this was our particular gift that we receive for coming and surviving that middle passageway.
We have 3 callers on. Let's go through these 3 callers so they can engage you. I'm talking to Miss Diana Hamilton. She is talking about culture, counterculture versus culture. She reminded me of a poem by Obadiah Michael Smith, Wax Paper People. And it ends with, what you want to be black for? Why don't you want to be wax paper so people can see straight through you? I wish I had the words for that. If someone could call in and recite that Obadiah Smith song there, a poem there, I'd be appreciative. Go ahead, caller, Guiding Radio AM. You're live. Let's move to the next one. Guiding Radio AM.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Newry. Miss Diana Hamilton, it is?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I wish I had you when I was doing my history. I wish I had you. Listen, I've been told that, the Native Americans in America, they almost were just annihilated. The Aborigines in Australia, of them.
Mm-hmm.
This thing that we call genetic, annihilation that the whites are so afraid of. Because whenever you mix black with any other color, it ain't gonna be white anymore. If it's white, do you think that these people who are afraid of blacks becoming dominant, would they ever succeed in eradicating blacks from the planet?
Do you know, sir, I hear your anxiety, and I believe that if we're having this conversation today, the same God that traveled with our ancestors on those slave ships, that same God is bringing us through. We are going to get through this, all right? And it's very interesting because I once met a French person that said to me, it is the black people that are going to save this planet. So if you look at all the people who have come and spoken about self-elevation, awareness, saving the planet, it's been black people. All right, from Nina Simone to Fela Kuti to you named it. And they've been coming again, and we've never been without a voice that has been singing to guide us. We've never, ever been left on our own to find our way in the dark.
Finally, where can I find your work online?
I haven't done anything yet. I'm hoping that I've got books in my head. Truly appreciate you. What you just said to me. That is an encouragement.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We have one more caller. Let me engage that person. Go ahead, caller. We're talking to Miss Diane Hamilton. Go ahead. Caller there? No? Let's continue with Miss Hamilton. I see you mentioned the term Black Lord, that origin people are given a mandate to sing songs, given the mandate to tell the stories. And you know, the Bahamas is a kaleidoscope of different people. However, what binds us together or makes us, the commonality of us is the fusion of European horns with African goatskin drums. They call that jonkanu now, right? Even though jonkanu may belong to Africans, but if you take away that 10 beat, what that drum is for these beat, that's tum-tum. Right?
The goatskin drum?
No, the one with
the tom-tom?
The tom-tom, yeah.
I think, yes.
That's part of jonkanu now.
Okay, so let's have a look at, let me just come to another point. One thing that has been standing out in my mind, and I'm going to be releasing 3 songs, and I'm not trying to publicize what I do, but I channel music in the same way that I realize that I'm in the same position as our ancestors were. They were not reading music and writing music. They were channeling music, and they were trying to produce it as perfectly as they had heard it. All right? And so one of the things that's coming to me is that we need to become the United Islands of the Bahamas. What does that mean? It means let each island become responsible for its own protection, its own development, by freeing from the suffocating control and stronghold of a centralized government.
What?
So what do we have? You've got islanders when let them decide on how they want to develop, whether it's farming, that they should all grow anyway to survive on, training institution, craftsmanship, whatever their decision is, it should be theirs. What does that mean? It means that in our community, why are we shoving down the throats of every Bahamian, Jonkanu, or everything that is only African in origin? We've got descendants of Europeans amongst us. They have a right to remember their legacy and celebrate it. That would bring a rich diversity to the Bahamas that you would find, for example, in France. France, that I know, is nothing but...
Miss Hamilton, we have white Bahamian culture. You ever go Oak Town? You see how you pronounce it, Oak? Oak Town have white Bahamian culture. Spanish Wells have white Bahamian culture.
It's isolated there. What I'm saying is, if you go to France, you would go to Brittany and you would enjoy the Celtic culture, the Knights of King Arthur. You would know about Merlin. If you go to Bourgogne, you would have another kind of culture. If you come to Paris, another kind. So each of those communes were once kingdoms, and they thrive and they keep alive their culture. All right? And they all fall under the label of France. The black Seminoles should have a right to protect their culture and to be visible in whatever we promote about our country. We are a united island. Each island has an identity. The people on Maguana may not live like the people on Long Island, may not live like the people on Andros. They have a right to a separate identity. What binds us all together is that we are in one geographical location, and I think the one thing that would bind each island would probably be religion. No matter which island, I believe they are all churchgoers. So why are we becoming a pagan, totally pagan-oriented country by only promoting the pagan festival of Junkanoo?
I pagan, though. I come from Igbo.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that everything should go, you have day and night, you have male and female. You cannot promote one thing without promoting the other. And so that because churches per capita in the world, so that means we have a strong, rich community of churches that can tell their stories, that can be a part of what our visitors come to hear. We are convinced that selling Junkanoo by costumes and shake, that is not culture. Okay, that is marketing.
What is, give me Bahamian culture, example of Bahamian cultures in pockets. Because see, the biggest festival, besides Junkanoo, it happens in Abaco. Abaco have this we call it hamburger in paradise, or cheeseburger in paradise, where thousands of white people from around the world come and settle there. That's a huge culture. I mean, Hopetown have a huge Conky Joe culture.
Well, then we should all know about it, and we should all promote it as a part of the Bahamas. And that's what I'm saying. The Seminoles should be in every child's mind, in every Bahamian's mind. The cultures that are here should be visible and promoted as such. If you go to New York, you have a Chinatown. Everybody knows that's not America. Everybody knows they're in Chinatown. Why are we allowing the Chinese to infuse our neighborhoods, destroy our neighborhood community stores, when they could have a Chinatown, for example, where we could go if we want to go and visit Chinatown and eat Chinese food? Why are they building restaurants, mixing Bahamian food in Bahamian throats? Why is it happening?
We can talk about that. We can take a commercial break right now. We can listen to this song. These are traditional Bahamian
These
songs.
are the rhyming spirituals, the bone of this community on the spiritual side. All right? On the spiritual side.
I wonder if church people like spiritual people. We'll be right back.
That's it.
The word of the Lord, God Ezekiel in the valley was on the Lord's day.
Girl, Junior just showed me Bella Boy in his phone.
What you mean? He take picture of that good-for-nothing boy?
Shh, you don't want Bella here. You say that. You know she always say that's my good child.
So what he doing in Junior phone?
Oh, he there because the police looking for him. He on their wanted list.
Wanted persons in your phone now?
Yes, child. And when police want to find anybody quick, after something happen, they can send pictures direct to your phone. Go to Google Play or App Store and search for Crack Crime Bahamas, then pick install and it will go straight to your phone.
There is also a section on missing persons.
Yes, girl. Everybody needs to get this app so tell us right away when these people go missing. Just like an alert system.
Yes, it has numbers for Crime Stoppers Bahamas, so you can call and nobody knows it's you. Call directly to Miami and give the information without giving your name or anything about you. I tried it the other day, and when I hear Junior and his boys talking about where they hide those guns, I walk quick round the corner and call that number.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or from the Family Islands.
Just sign in and have a seat, please. They'll call you in for your x-ray shortly.
That's why they call it a waiting room. You won't have that problem at 4th Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor. We never schedule multiple appointments, so you'll be in and out in no time. And if your initial screening reveals a concern, our radiologist can conduct an alternative screening right then and there. Call 328-8157 to schedule an appointment at 4th Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor today.
Love the show? Want to give your support? Become a sponsor today. Call 302-2300 for our rates and packages. That's 302-2300. Become a sponsor on Guardian Radio 96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day.
You try to rest, but roll with the best. For all your printing needs, there ain't no one better, no. for posters and banners, magazines and flyers, for window decals, greeting cards and newsletters. No job too big and there's no job too small. You name it, we can print it. Just give us a call. Let Print Masters bring your masterpiece to life.
Located in the Nassau Guardian Building, telephone 302-2361.
God said he would send down fire. Send it down to Elijah. Set the altar on fire. Didn't he send, Lord, didn't he send? Great God, old Elijah was a great man of God. They told me old Elijah was wandering about in a land with no food, no water to drink. They told me, great God, he had mighty strength. He had miracle food from the bird, water from the brook. And so I heard he went struggling on down to the Israelites just to tell them out loud the Bible would stand. God said he would send down fire. He gonna send it down to Elijah. He gonna set the altar on fire. Didn't he send?
When I was younger, attending T.A. Thompson Primary, there was a group of boys. I was included in that. Actually, we had what I call rap battles. We sang this song.
Yeah.
We at break time, instead of going around and being rambunctious, we sang songs. It was a common thing. Young boys sang songs, and we call it it's like an a cappella type concept. But we don't do that anymore.
Well, because what you're saying is essentially what we're saying is that in order for culture to survive, it's a legacy. If it is not preserved, it dies. It only takes the birth of one child for that culture to disappear. One Bahamian that is born without knowledge of where it's lost. All right? And so what keeps it alive is that there are still people who are alive who remember. And that's why it's important to now engage those people. We need to engage them and make it possible for them to begin to infuse their communities, wherever they are, with what they remember.
So you say culture needs to be intentional?
Culture needs to be intentional. Just as the sun intends to rise and set, it is anything that humans do, whether it's intentional or unintentional, it comes to the same result because it manifests. So it's much better. Before an Aboriginal had a child, they went into dream time. They sat under a tree and they dreamt the child that was coming. This is not unusual amongst I would say Bahamians, but amongst the people of this world. If you travel, you will see magical things everywhere of people that continue to hold on to heaven on earth, okay? And you will see it manifested in certain people. What the Bahamas had and has lost is its diverse cultures that were present. When we took over the European culture and claimed it as ours. We should not have done that. It should still be descendants of the colonialists to tell their story. It is not our story, okay? But we call it ours, and we sit in there in the buildings they built, and we occupy those buildings as if we built them, and we're not. All right? And we could have told their stories.
You don't think that'll be problematic to have a Bahamian white culture independent of the general culture, then a Bahamian black culture that is independent of the national culture? Shouldn't it be fused and say, well, this is Bahamian culture in general?
You can't fuse what doesn't. If you're making a cake, all right, you have ingredients. It's all those ingredients that come together and you get a cake. We're trying to get rid of the ingredients so that we could come up with one sort of dough, right? And we call it Bahamian. If the descendants of Europeans that live in our country do not feel included in whatever we claim is culture, then we are excluding them. If the Seminoles do not find themselves included, if the black-skinned, kinky hair, full lips don't find themselves validated in this culture, they are excluded. All right? So this is a culture that is shut down. High institutions like government shut down and destroyed Edmund Moxie's Jumbe village, that cut down and destroyed Music Over the Hill. So, destroyed the racetrack. So if you look, all that I've seen personally is shutting down of a culture. I haven't seen preservation or even rebuilding. I've just seen, and it just keeps shutting down.
I'm going to bring Miss Diane Hamilton back so we can continue this conversation. This is when you only have 1 hour to talk about so much. But she's talking about breaking down this harmonious culture, this one culture, and celebrate individuality. To have a Spanish Wells culture, a Abaco culture, a Auckland's culture, a Bahamian Conkyjo culture, a Bahamian Long Island Red culture, Auckland's Red culture, a Black Bahamian culture, Igbo culture, and celebrate all of that. So when you come to the Bahamas, you say, we have so much dynamic here. So much things to be proud of.
That's right. We are the United Islands of the Bahamas.
The United Islands of the Bahamas. This has been Guardian Radio AM with C.A. Newry. Thank you very much, Diane Hamilton. Have
You're
a wonderful
welcome.
day.
Okay.
But there's still some among us. They're all so inspiring. Thank God for He's kept them through the years. Tell me, who's gonna fill that shoe, that tall? Tell me, who's gonna make the effort to help us one and all? I wanna know who's gonna give their heart and soul to get to me and you. Lord, I wonder, tell me, who's gonna fill that shoe?
This is Guardian Radio 96.9 FM, streaming on GuardianTalkRadio.com and the Guardian Radio app, Nassau, Bahamas.